Morning everybody, happy Tuesday. I hope you had a good day yesterday and you're raring to go this morning. So this morning we're going to be looking at, yesterday we were looking at horizontal and vertical lines, and today we're going to be looking at some other different lines called parallel and perpendicular lines. Now there's two different shapes here where we've got two different lines. What do you notice about these? What's the difference? Okay, you will notice that two of them are running at the same in the same direction, and on the other shape they're actually crossing over. Now we're going to have a look at what these are called. So these are called parallel lines. So parallel lines can be in any, as you can see, all of these are facing different directions. They don't all have to be facing the same direction. However, what you do notice is that when there are two lines or more next to each other, they are all moving in the same direction. So parallel lines are two or more lines that run next to each other in the same direction and do not meet. They do not cross. So if they carried on and carried on and carried on, they would never cross. When we show parallel lines, we use arrows. So there's an example there to show you that when we're using parallel lines to show that they are parallel, we put a little arrow on each. So you might have seen some examples of parallel lines in different objects. So we've got train tracks. The train tracks have to stay the same distance apart the whole way, because if they obviously cross, the train will fall off its tracks. Road markings, you might see parallel road markings. You might see a running track. The lanes, they have to be parallel, otherwise if they're not parallel, people would end up crashing into each other into the same lane. So you can see the different types of road markings and running track and train tracks. Also, you can do what we call parallel skiing. So that's where your skis have to stay the same distance apart, because if your skis crossed, you would end up falling over. So parallel lines are just two lines or more that run next to each other in the same direction but will never cross. So if there are two sets of parallel lines, so on here you can see that the lines which have got one arrow on, you can see that these are parallel lines. However, you can also see on a rectangle that there is another set of parallel lines which are the vertical lines going up. Now if there are two sets of parallel lines, we would put a different amount of arrows on. Same if there were 3 or 4, we'd just add an extra arrow. So we can see the horizontal parallel lines have got 1 arrow and the vertical parallel lines have got 2 arrows. So I'd now like you to have a go at drawing a square in your books, and I want you to find the parallel lines. So which lines are parallel, and draw the arrows. Remember, you might need to have some which have got more arrows on than others, but have a look and see if you can get it the same as what I've done. So this is what you should have got, something that looks like this. So your vertical line should have the same number of arrows, and your horizontal line should have the same number of arrows, because they are running parallel in the same direction and they will never cross. Now it doesn't matter which way up you put your arrows as long as they are the same on the parallel lines. So if one parallel line has got it pointing down, the other one should also be pointing down as well. Now we have got something called perpendicular. Now this is a big word, but it's not as difficult as you expect. So a perpendicular line is a line that meets at a right angle at 90 degrees. So again, we're seeing that L. So these lines can be in any direction as long as they meet at a right angle. So you can see that it is a 90 degrees line, so two lines that meet at a right angle. That is all a perpendicular line is. So if one line is flat, the perpendicular line would be the one that makes the right angle that comes down. So I'd now like you to have a go at doing the math sheet that's attached to the seesaw activity. Now you've got to say which ones are parallel. You might have to draw some parallel or perpendicular lines. Now the ones where you might have to draw as well, there are grids, so please use the squares on the grids to help you as well. So if you want to have a go at doing this, then have a look. I will go through the answers after, and then I'm going to put an extension activity on at the end, so if you'd like to do that as well, then that's there for you. Okay, so let's have a look at the answers. So number 1, tick the pairs that are not parallel. So obviously for this one, the non-parallel ones are the final ones, because again, it doesn't matter how far away your lines are, as long as they are running in the same direction and will never cross, that means they are still parallel. here are two lines. Draw a line that is parallel to each. So you should have drawn, using the lines, a line that was the same, going in the same direction, that would not cross. And I've also used the squares to help you there. Amir says the lines are not parallel because they're different lengths. Is Amir correct? Well, no, he's not, because they are still parallel. It doesn't matter if they're different lengths, they're still never going to cross. So they are still moving in the same direction, but they're just different lengths, so they are still going to be parallel. For number 4, here is a line. Draw a line that is not parallel, so it should be anything that doesn't follow the same shape. And then for B, you had to draw a parallel line, so they should look like they're going in the same direction. For number 5, here are the lines. Draw the parallel line. So I would have used the squares on the grid to help you, to show you how to draw your parallel lines. Question 6, tick the perpendicular lines. So obviously the ones that are ticked, we can clearly see that there's a right angle because a square would fit inside it. Then for number 7, you had to draw a perpendicular line. So as long as you drew it so that it looked like an L, or an L on its side, or so that it had a right angle, then that would be a perpendicular line. Alex has drawn some lines on the grid. He says that the lines are not perpendicular because they don't meet. Do you agree with Alex? Well, no, because they don't have to necessarily meet all the time. They are perpendicular because they could be, if they do meet, they would meet at a right angle, so they still would be perpendicular. And for part B, the lines are parallel because they don't meet. Well, this isn't correct, because if you continued the line, so if you actually drew the line and continued it, you would find that yes, they don't touch now, but if they did continue the lines, then they would crash into each other with the two lines. And for 9, 5 lines are drawn on a grid. Which 2 pairs out of the lines are parallel? So you would say D and E, or A and C, because they are both parallel, as in they both run in the same direction. So if you continue the lines, they would never meet. And then which lines are perpendicular? You could have had A and B, or B and C, to show that it would make a right angle if they matched. So for an extension activity, what you might want to do is have a look around your house, go and take some pictures using either your iPad or a phone, if you borrow your parents' phone, to find where you can see parallel and perpendicular lines. Alternatively, you might want to draw a picture of something and label the lines. So it could be you just draw parallel and perpendicular lines, or you could draw a picture of something, an object, a house, something that where you know that you're going to have some lines, and label these. I look forward to seeing all your work on Seesaw, and have a fantastic day.